the mayor and I had a little visit before the presentations, and he informed me that he would have some discussion about the landfill, and that I didn't need to go near there. I said, hell, Mayor, nobody wants to go near the landfill. You know, we all have our crosses to bear. I'm glad you have that one. And let me point out, the county has no jurisdiction. And that's our story, and we're sticking with it. The county, basically, the outline of the duties of the county and the county commissioner's court is that the commissioner's court conducts general business of the county and consists of the county judge and 4 commissioners, and have Commissioner Ben Perry here today. So appreciate all that Commissioner Perry does along with the other commissioners in moving progress forward. The court's authority is that we adopt the county budget and the tax rate, and I might point out we've lowered the tax rate 3 years in a row, but I will have to get credit for the taxpayers whose values went up. It allowed more revenue coming in for us to do that, but we continue to look at tax rates. Indications are that values will be about where they are this coming year, and so we will strongly consider lowering that tax rate and soften the burden on taxpayers when we can, because we do believe those dollars do come back into the community in other ways. The other thing is we approve all the budgeted purchases for the county. We fill the vacancies in elected and appointed offices. We set all the salaries and benefits. We have exclusive authority to authorize contracts and provide and maintain all the county buildings and facilities. And the county owns a lot of facilities, and you may have read that we're really looking at older facilities, whether we need to keep them or put them back on the market, get them on the tax road, and maybe construct new facilities. It depends on the purpose and those things. So we're taking all that in consideration. We're working hard to try to come to some conclusions on that. And recognizing folks that are important to the county, I'd like to recognize Dustin Chapman. He's our county administrator, which is similar to to Mr. Wiley Stem, who's a city manager, and they have a lot in common. Both of them part their hair on the same side. It's hard to tell them apart, except for that 30-year difference. But going to the budget, one of the things that we've tried to do over the last several years, and coming out of a pretty rough financial situation back in 2011 and 12, is we knew when we got on our feet that one of the things we needed to do is be sure we had adequate amount of liquidity to handle ups and downs that happen in the business. And so we started adopting a percentage of our total budget in what's called unassigned fund balance, which is cash and short-term investments. And the whole purpose of that is to be in a position where at some point in time we know that things are going to change. Either we'll have a reduction in values or no increase in values while expenses continue to go up. So just like you do at your family, you look at your savings to be sure you can weather those storms and not have a knee-jerk reaction of having to raise taxes, that you can work into that cash for a while until you can either cut expenses or your revenues level out and start going up. It's the same thing that many of you deal with in your business. We want to get to about 33 1/3% of our total budget in our unassigned fund balance. The other benefit that this gives to us is that we utilize credit as a tool, And our credit rating is important, and it makes a lot of difference on the cost of money, as you know. And so I'm glad to say that right now we have the highest credit rating a county can get, and we're gonna keep that in that position as we go forward. A couple of things that are happening in our in the county that we're trying to take a different approach on. It's something we've been wrestling with a long time, for a long time. We have a lot of mental health with regular citizenry as well as veterans, and you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. And so we're taking a more aggressive approach on how we handle that population. We've looked around the state, and a lot of counties and cities that are addressing this situation because they have to. Gives us a lot of ideas on how we might structure our county. Several years ago, quite a few years ago, the state did not replace mental health beds, and they actually, by not doing that, left it to the local communities to deal with mental health people. And most of the counties in the state aren't prepared to handle that. But we see a lot of positive response with leadership like Doc Anderson, Kyle Cassell, and Senator Birdwell that recognize that and are working hard to be able to help us specifically in this county. And so we're looking at a lot of opportunities. But one of the things we felt like we could do is set up a veterans court. And veterans also many times have very unique mental health issues due to PTSD and brain injuries due to combat. So those are different type of mental health issues that you have to treat multiple symptoms to be able to have any success in that. We have set up within our jail a military culture for part of our wings. We find out that many of these folks feel more comfortable if they've got at least a pattern to follow like they had in the military. And so we have Captain Ricky Armstrong that runs our jail is very passionate about this, and with the help of Sheriff Parnell McNamara, they have been looking around all the state to find out ways to address this population, and having them segmented from the rest of the population when possible is one of the ways we can do that. You know, in 2016 we had 698 inmates that were veterans, and then in 2017 we had 675. And it's not going to change. I mean, we've got combat going on around the world. A lot of times these things don't pop up till multiple years after they get out of the military. So in this regard, we have set up a specialty veterans court that will be created in FY19. We've got it budgeted. Judge Gary Coley, a very good district judge, has agreed to help in that. And in addition to that, we've created an associate judge position. And we've just made arrangements with, you may recall this gentleman, Judge David Hodges. He was appointed as the general associate judge position. He will help in all the mental health issues. We also, Judge Vic Devanagam has a drug and alcohol program that they have graduates out of it, and it's really helping us on our reintegration back into the community. The jail programs that we have are they're very complicated, and I would say right now that we're kind of creating this as we go. It's a new thing for us, but we feel like that we can save enough jail days by treating people and have better outcomes than them not being treated. Go to jail, they're in there 6 months, cost us about $60 a day, and so if you can save those jail days, you can end up paying for these programs. So we're real excited to work in this regard in addressing mental health. It's just been overlooked by the state, and we've got to take care of it here. In all this, we're looking constantly for grants and things that will help offset any costs that may occur that are special on top of that. We're working very close with Waco Tribune, keeping them updated on what we're doing, and so that's something that keep us in your thoughts and prayers in that regard. A fun thing we're doing is the venue project. Several years ago, and I mean many years ago, back in the 80s, we worked to try to find out if there's a way that we could do a venue project in McLennan County. And every time that it came up, there was some obstacle. And many times it might be like that Texas economy may be stressed, and having any kind of legislation that had to do with the tax, just you couldn't run it through. So all of a sudden the stars lined up, and we were able to get a venue project in play. There again, Doc Anderson helped us a lot with that. And what this allowed us to do is create an order to create revenue from taxes generated by vehicle rental and hotel. We had a study done on a tract of land that's all contiguous that Waco Independent School District owns part of it. City of Waco, where Lake Air Little League is part of it, and then of course McLennan County that owns the property that the Heart of Texas Fairs sits on. So in this, we did the study. We created the order to generate the taxes. About the first year, it looks like our annual revenue is going to be about $2.2 million. We really look for that to grow due to increased hotel rooms that are being built right now, and also increase in hotel rates as well. Our debt service on our bonds, we sold about $36.5 million worth of bonds. And our debt service on that's about $1.8 million. So you can see we just on this first year's actual collection that we'll have about a $400,000 over and above debt service that will be available to spend on the project. The money and the revenue can only be spent on that facility out there. In the plan, we had a group called Populous put that together. Populous is you might recognize that name. They were the architects and that did the where Baylor plays, McLean Stadium. I'm not going to say anything. Anyhow, it's a beautiful facility. They did a wonderful job on it, and they're very familiar with the community, and so we had a good start on that. This is a tract of land here that shows where the different assets would lay, and you can see that the old Paul Tyson Field, those where the two pink buildings are on the left side there. That'll be equine facilities. That'll be right where the field is. Looking on the far upper right, there is a new football or soccer and track for WSD that will be constructed there to replace the Paul Tyson properties, and then Lake Air Little League will lay in right next to that, and there should be a lot of parking available. If you look over in the solid green bar on the right side, that's where Lake Air Little League is right now, so WISD will end up with that, so they'll have adequate parking for their schools. So I think it all worked well. The first project that will come out of the ground will be the Expo Center, which will be about an 80,000 square foot facility that will be the host to many indoor sports like volleyball, basketball, archery, which I don't want to be at that when they have that. but it'll be used in conjunction with the Heart of Texas Fair Coliseum, or the Coliseum, which that floor can be provided for these big tournaments as well. That's a great project. We're getting in the middle of it. There's several vendors in here that are involved in it, Walker Partners and others. We still have a little bit of, I think, geotechnical engineering to do to break ground on that, but it should be after the first year sometime. Switching to economic development, and this is really almost a Chamber of Commerce report here, but that's where I stole the information from. But when you see good quality stuff, steal it. When you it's been a pleasure to be part of the economic development team for our county and city, and the Waco McLennan County Economic Development Corporation, or we call it WebMec, which that doesn't add up either, but it's close as we can get. But we supported 59 projects and completed and active projects and awarded $36 million in grants, and that's leveraging $694 million in private and industrial capital investment. Each WebMec dollar invested is a leverage of $19.31, or almost 20% return in corporate investment. So, and historically speaking, the largest ones have been awarded to the BRIC, L3, Allergan, Sherman-Williams, and SpaceX. Next page, you'll see the ones in green. These have code names. We're under confidentiality, but we've been visiting with those 5 on a consistent basis, and we really hope to have some announcement that'll come out and maybe before the end of the year, but surely into 19, and they're significant, as you can see. So, and you know, one of the challenges we have that the mayor brought up a while ago is having an adequate workforce, and you know, hopefully skilled workforce. And I know Curtis Cleveland and myself and a group have worked a lot on trying to improve with the help of TSTC and MCC and Pilot, to work on our skill level. And you know, even if they have a certification of something that really is not doesn't match up to the employer that's trying to find them, the employer knows that person was able to get a certification, so we can switch that to cater it for what our needs are. And I think we have a great team in workforce development. I doubt that there's any community that can match us right now. And one of the areas that we really have to work on is where we have unskilled workers, to find them, encourage them to participate in the workforce development programs that we have. This is a typical, when we get down to identifying that we're on the short list, this is the kind of team that sits down with the prospect and really works out the details of the community. And I will say that we had a meeting last week, and they brought 15 people with them. They got to be serious when they do that. And I talked to the HR director and asked him about our community. I said, you know, you would be moving, and some of these employees would be executives in the company, and you know, I'm sure they would be moving to Waco. And anytime you buy a company or establish a company in a community, you look for certain things, because you don't want to put your highly paid and highly valued staff in a community they're not comfortable in. I said, what do you think about Waco and McLennan County? He said, they're going to love it. He said, we are blown away with this community. So congratulations to everybody that participated and helped in making this a really cool place. So the under this report on water planning would have been much better back about 2 months ago, where it says drought contingency and water supply resiliency plan. And I'm sitting here looking at a report about how to don't waste water, and Wiley's got the gates wide open over there. But as we know, we're going to have droughts and we're going to have rain. Is it raining? Okay. And so our biggest issue here is it's all about conjunctive use and conservation of our groundwater. When we have a lot of water, ideally, we can distribute water lines coming out of Waco's plants and sell treated water to areas that are using groundwater now. When the drought hits, you can go back to your groundwater. You know you're going to have plenty of it. We're real concerned about the Trinity. A lot of studies show it doesn't recharge like many of the others do, so we need to preserve that for our next generations. So that's what it's all about. It's on our website. We have been working with state and federal legislators looking for opportunities to try to find grant money to extend lines in the eastern part of McLennan County where there's a high arsenic amount there, and they can dilute that water and get that arsenic level down where EPA is okay with it. Now the arsenic level's been about the same for 50 years. Let's see, maybe a little longer than 50 years, and I've been on it. Man, what were you laughing about? I think I'm a perfect example of a human being. And I feel pretty good for 42 years old. Dustin knew I was going to tell that one. Okay, next are road projects that we're on. I'll speed it up here. We've got several projects that we have in design in various stages, but we will be, Surrey Ridge is a project over near the Robinson area. It's about a $3 million project, and it'll be done in 2019. Ritchie Road is work between several municipalities in the county to get it finished, and by January 2019, it's about a $700,000 project. And then the Spiegelville Road, we get into the bigger projects, is about a $17 million, almost $18 million project. And it'll be done on August 2020. And the importance of this road and Chapel Road is multiple. First is safety, but also it will encourage development out in that area. It'll be safer travel for school buses, and where there's large structures, shoulders that you can get off on for various reasons. And we think this will pay back, the cost of this to the taxpayer will be paid back in economic development in those areas. One of the challenges we have, and we talked to you about the unassigned fund balance and trying to hang on to it and have it available for issues. One of the things that keeps creeping up is unfunded mandates. These are significant cost drivers for county government and have placed an increased strain on county budgets and internal and local property taxes and local taxpayers. The examples would be criminal and indigent defense. Years ago, the state covered for all that. We used to provide attorneys for people indigent that have charges filed against them. And they covered it all. This last year, the state sent us $300,000, a little bit short of the $5 million that it cost us. And that's all in just the last several years. So you can see how that's just running rampant in there. The same thing with indigent mental health patients as well. So the indigent health care side, the CPS cases, we have to appoint counsel for that. In fact, today, and part of our court action was to approve the lawyers that would represent those folks that the taxpayers pay for. Jail Standards Commission, they have increased their requirements for us to manage the jail, primarily in our inmate per our jailer and inmate ratio is a lot higher. So it's lower actually. We have to have more inmates for the same amount of, there again, back up. We have to have more jailers than we have inmates by a long shot. How about that? Okay, one of the things that we think is driving a lot of this too is school funding. This is a quote from the Texas Tribune. The early projections has Texas decreasing state funding to public education and largely using local taxes to fill the gap. Also, another quote is, in its preliminary budget request ahead of next year's legislative session, the Texas Education Agency projected a drop in the state's general revenue for public education by more than $3.5 billion over the next couple of years. So more's coming in that regard. And Doc and all the other state representatives, state senators, we've had discussions about it, and we hope that we can get our arms around this. Years ago, the state covered 75% of the school cost, and 2019 it's only going to cover 38%. And the property taxpayers pick up the rest of it. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard, and keep talking to our legislators to try to figure out a good solution to take on that challenge. That concludes my report. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.